Our health week is now become 106 hours. No sleep. So it starts off in the morning and then you can't sleep for 106 hours. Only thing is that they give you a 1 hour break where you can go back to your dormitories. To get a procurement case through in the Ministry of Defense is not easy. There's a lot of bureaucracy and there are a lot of ifs and buts and there are a lot of procedures to be followed. Plus there are vendors who will keep on cribbing, keep on complaining. Sometimes the vendors don't respond in time. Sometimes the files get stuck in some office in the Ministry of Defense or in the naval headquarters. तो वो शायद हमने इंश्योर किया कि ऐसा कुछ ना हो एंड आई कैन टेल ऑल द एडवर्सरीज हु मे बी लिसनिंग टू दिस पॉडकास्ट एज इन व्हेन इट इज पब्लिश्ड that don't dare to do anything with us because we are highly prepared.
Welcome to Independence Day special episode on Just Curious podcast. ये हमारा पहला मिलिट्री पॉडकास्ट है with none other than legend Commodore Vijaypal Rawat sir of MARCOS जो इंडियन नेवी की स्पेशल फोर्सेस है. इस पॉडकास्ट एपिसोड में मैंने विजय सर का माइंडसेट डिकोड किया है अराउंड लीडरशिप, डिसीजन मेकिंग एंड मेंटल टफनेस. मेरा ये मानना है कि अगर आपको लीडरशिप या डिसीजन मेकिंग सीखनी है तो आप विजय सर जैसे मार्कोस ऑफिसर से काफ़ी कुछ सीख सकते हो. उनके फ्रेमवर्क्स और मेंटल मॉडल से आप काफ़ी कुछ इन्फॉर्मेशन गेन कर सकते हो अराउंड दिस टॉपिक्स. सो विदाउट रिवीलिंग टू मच, welcome to another episode of Just Curious podcast where we decode the mindset of our guest through curiosity. And on today's episode, I decoded the mindset of Vijay Sir. Also, happy Independence Day to all of you. Jai Hind. What are some of the qualities does Marcos officers required?
Okay, so now this the first question should be actually what are the qualities which are required of a armed forces officer and in particular a naval officer, because only naval officers can become marine commandos.
Huh.
So there is something called as officer-like qualities, which they are about a set of about 15, 16 leadership qualities which you are supposed to imbibe. They are also tested when you are entering the Naval Academy or National Defense Academy, and the other attribute which are looked at by the Service Selection Board once you are clearing your UPSC exam for NDA and all these exams, and thereafter the 3 years of rigorous training we have in the National Defense Academy. They are the specific qualities which are harped upon and also are they imbibed and then they are actually consolidated. And as you grow up in service after doing all your academic tenures and also your learning phase, then you tend to consolidate and also with additional experience and the real-time experience of leading men in difficult situations. So there is you can polish your skills and consolidate your skills. So they are all a set of 15, 16 leadership qualities. But coming to your specific question about Marine Commandos, I would say that physical courage is the first quality which Marine Commando officer need to possess. And second is remaining unfazed in very difficult situations. Number three is that have a strong control in person's emotional intelligence, because you will land up in situations where you may not need, you may desire a support to be there, ready at hand, but it may not be there as you desire. And your life of your people who are out for a mission would be in peril. Even if it is not a mission in a real operation scenario, it could be a training mission where you could land up in situations which are not very conducive for happy living. So there you need to maintain your mental balance. And if you have the emotional intelligence to sort out the issues of the people who are working in you in a small team, then it really helps a lot. And there are many qualities, but the fourth and most important quality I feel, which people may feel that it may not be that important, but I have always considered important based on my experience, and that is to be very humorous. You should be able to derive humor in every situation. Now that actually sort of calms the nerves of people, and it also makes you detach you for a little while from the developing situation. And as a result, your mind can actually start focusing on the real issue and may be able to find out a real quick time solution, which can take you out of the mess which you have got yourself in. So these are the four qualities which I feel amongst the various 15, 16 qualities which are there required of a military leader. These four qualities are very important. Beside this, the physical fitness requirement, the mental toughness requirement, they are also attributes of a Marine Commando, or for that matter, armed forces people. But specifically, since you asked a question about Marine Commandos, they are all very important qualities.
First point you said कि strong physical courage एक होना चाहिए. So like what do you mean by that? Can you just go a little bit deeper on that कि क्या होता है वो?
फिजिकल करेज का मतलब ये होता है कि अगर आप किसी सिचुएशन में इन्वॉल्व हो गए हैं, तो देयर इज अ फिजिकल डेंजर टू योर लाइफ एंड टू द लाइफ ऑफ मैन, उस समय आपको निडर होना है, आपको फ्रीज नहीं होना. बिकॉज क्या होता है कि जब भी कोई सिचुएशन ऐसी आती है, सो तीन रिएक्शन होते हैं: फाइट, फ्लाइट एंड फ्रीज. यानी कि या तो लड़ो, या तो भागो, या तो वहां पे बिल्कुल फ्रीज हो जाओ, यानी कि यू आर इन ए पोजीशन कि स्टैचू बन जाओ और आप कुछ कर ना पाओ.
हाँ.
So this is called this is normal reaction of a human being when this confronted कोई difficult situation, समस्या सामने आ जाए, तो ऐसा अनुभव है कि लोगों का ऐसा होता है. तो फिजिकल करेज ऐसी चीज है कि not only for yourself but also for the safety and security of the men who are under you, जो आपके समूह में 8-9 कमांडोज हैं, तो उनकी भी सहायता करनी पड़ती है आपको, उनको भी इस सिचुएशन से बाहर निकालना है. So that is called physical courage.
Commandos visualize to be in this place, like they want to be in this at first place. So uski wajah se ही they apply for Marine Commandos, Marcos. So I just want to know what was your reason to shift from a naval officer to like I want to join Marine Commandos.
See,
What you visualized?
पहली बात तो ये कि जब मैंने भारतीय नौसेना ज्वाइन की थी एज एन ऑफिसर इन 1986, उसके बाद एक साल का हमें सब लेफ्टिनेंट टेक्निकल कोर्स करना पड़ता है, जिसको कि फाउंडेशनल ट्रेनिंग होती है, जहाँ पे भारतीय नौसेना में जितने भी आई एम एन एग्जीक्यूटिव ऑफिसर, मींस पीपल लाइक मी आर द पीपल हु कमांड इन द नेवी, हु कमांड वॉरशिप्स, कमांड सबमरीन्स, एंड दैट इज द काइंड ऑफ जॉब वी हैव. तो एग्जीक्यूटिव ऑफिसर्स के लिए एक साल का कोर्स होता है, जहाँ पे उनको सभी स्कूल्स में, सभी नेवी के जो सारे स्पेशलाइजेशन के अलग अलग इंस्टीट्यूशन होते हैं, वहां पे 1.5-2 महीने की ट्रेनिंग करनी पड़ती है. वो ट्रेनिंग खत्म करने के बाद को अनुमान लग जाता है कि आपकी जो कैपेबिलिटी के अनुसार कौन सा ऐसा स्पेशलाइजेशन है जो आपको नेवी में चूज करना है. क्योंकि एक बार आपने स्पेशलाइजेशन चूज कर लिया, तो उसके बाद देयर आफ्टर आपका सारा जो प्रोग्रेस है फौज में, नेवी में, उसी स्पेशलाइजेशन के अंतर्गत होगा. तो मेरा पहला विचार तो ये था कि मैं I became a pilot. I wanted to fly Sea Harriers. Sea Harriers are the vertical takeoff landing aircrafts. तो जब हमने 1982 में एनडीए ज्वाइन किया था, सॉरी, उस समय सी हैरियर्स ब्रिटिश से इंडिया में आए थे, और आईएनएस विक्रांत था जिसमें कि ये ऑपरेट करते थे. और मैंने ऑफिसर बनने से पहले 6 महीने की मिडशिपमैन ट्रेनिंग होती है, यानी कि 3 साल की एनडीए की ट्रेनिंग के बाद आप 6 महीने के लिए कैडेट ट्रेनिंग के लिए ट्रेनिंग शिफ्ट में आते हो कोचीन में. उसके बाद अगले 6 महीने के लिए आपको डिफरेंट शिफ्ट में भेजा जाता है, जहाँ पे आप और 6 महीने की ट्रेनिंग करते हैं, उसको बोलते हैं मिडशिपमैन पीरियड. उस समय आपको ऑफिसर का दर्जा दिया जाता है, लेकिन आपको ऑफिसर की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नहीं दी जाती है. दैट इज बेसिकली एन इंटर्नशिप फेज. सो यू लर्न ए लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स, देन यू हैव एन एग्जाम. तो जब मैं मिडशिपमैन था, तो मैं आईएनएस विक्रांत में था. तो विक्रांत में करीबन 20-25 सी हैरियर्स थे और काफी हेलीकॉप्टर्स थे. एंड वहां पे बड़े हैंडसम लुकिंग पायलट्स वेयरिंग रे बैन ग्लासेस एंड ऑल, एंड वो सुबह शाम रात को फ्लाई करते थे. उनकी लाइफ देख के, हाई रिस्क लाइफ, यू नो, दे आई मीन, प्लस यू नो, दे वर ऑलवेज जोवियल, हंसते रहते थे, मस्ती करते रहते थे, वेरी प्रोफेशनल इन द अप्रोच. एंड फ्लाइंग फ्रॉम ए कैरियर डेक, मिस आईएनएस विक्रांत और किसी भी एयरक्राफ्ट कैरियर डेक से, ये बहुत ही रिस्की ऑपरेशन होता है. बट जिस तरह से वो लोग इसको बड़ा इजीली करते थे, तो हम सब जैसे यंग लोग थे, उनको ऐसा लगता था कि यार हम भी ये स्पेशलाइजेशन ज्वाइन करें. बट मेरी बहुत दिक्कत ये थी कि आई वाज वेरी सी सिक, यानी कि आई वाज रोड सिक, सी सिक. एंड फिर मैंने ये सोचा कि अगर मैं ये प्रोफेशन चूज करता हूँ, माय सी सिकनेस कुड आल्सो बी एयर सिकनेस, एंड देन इट विल बी, ये मेरे प्रशिक्षण में बाधा बन सकती है. एंड इसीलिए मैंने फ्लाइंग ज्वाइन नहीं की. फिर द ओनली अदर ऑप्शन आई हैड वाज कि एक क्लियरेंस ड्राइविंग कोर्स होता है नेवी में, जो कि बहुत ही रिगरस ट्रेनिंग होती है, ऑलमोस्ट लाइक ए कमांडो कोर्स. उसमें पानी में काफी गोताखोरी करनी पड़ती है, लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस स्विमिंग करनी पड़ती है, अंडर वाटर डाइविंग करनी पड़ती है लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस. दुश्मन के जहाजों को ध्वस्त करने के लिए अंडर वाटर आपके पास माइंस ले आनी पड़ती है. एंड अगर किसी दुश्मन ने सी माइंस आपके हार्बर में डाल रखी है तो उसको जाके डिफ्यूज करना, तो हाई रिस्क जॉब वो भी होता है। तो वो 8 साढ़े 8 महीने का कोर्स था। तो जब हम 1 साल का प्रशिक्षण कर रहे थे एज सब लेफ्टिनेंट टेक्निकल कोर्स, तो 2 हफ्ते के लिए, 1 हफ्ते के लिए हम डाइविंग स्कूल में, जो कोचीन में है, भारतीय नौसेना गोताखोर स्कूल, तो वहां पे हमने 1 हफ्ता बिताया था। तो आई वॉज वेरी इम्प्रेस्ड। मैंने कहा था कि ये ऐसी चीज है जो कि बहुत कम लोग कर सकते हैं। इसमें दम भी चाहिए, और शारीरिक और मानसिक दम की बहुत आवश्यकता है, एंड आई थिंक आई कैन डू इट। तो एज ए चैलेंज मैंने ये किया। तो वो 8.5 महीने का कोर्स किया। तो मुझे लगा कि मेरी जो माय skill sets are pretty good for this kind of activity, because मैं स्कूल में जो था, I was quite academically very sound. I was school captain. I stood second in my school. I passed my medical college exam. So मैं जनरली हाई मेरिट वाला बंदा था स्कूल में भी, और एनडीए में भी जब मैंने ज्वाइन किया तो आई वाज 21st इन ऑल इंडिया मेरिट। तो ये सब तो था, लेकिन फिजिकल फिटनेस लेवल्स काफी हाई थे, बिकॉज ऑलराउंडर था मैं स्कूल में। तो ये सब किया था मैंने। तो आई थॉट कि दिस इज समथिंग व्हिच आई मस्ट डू। तो मैंने अपने मेरे दो दो तीन और कोर्समेट से हम सबने ज्वाइन कर लिया। तो एक बार क्लियरेंस ड्राइविंग कोर्स खत्म कर दिया, तो उसके 2 साल के बाद फिर हमें आर्मी इन्फेंट्री कमांडो स्कूल होता है, वहां पे भेजा गया। एक 33 डेज के लिए वो कोर्स भी किया, और वो भी काफी बेहतर तरीके से किया हमने। सो इच्छा जागी कि यार अभी तो मरीन कमांडो बनना ही है। तो उसके 1 डेढ़ साल के बाद जब मरीन कमांडो कोर्स आया, तो हमने वॉलंटियर किया, और आई स्टूड फर्स्ट इन माय कोर्स, इन माय बैच।
But I just want to ask you from your answer, are you satisfied with your career?
एब्सोल्युटली साटिस्फाइड विद द करियर, बिकॉज सी, पहली बात तो देयर इज नो ऑल्टरनेटिव। जो आपने
हाँ.
कहना करना था, अचीव करना था, आपने पूरी कोशिश की है। ऐसा नहीं, आई कैन नॉट से, नो, व्हेन आई जॉइन द नेवी, आई डिड नॉट फील कि I'll retire only as a Commodore, which is a 1 star rank. I thought maybe I'll go up in service further than this, because I could have gone up to 3 star level also. मेहनत तो की थी, एंड अपॉर्चुनिटीज नेवी ने काफी दी। मैंने एज ए माइलस्टोन्स व्हिच नेवी हैड सेट फॉर यू टू डू मच बेटर इन द सर्विस, वो सारे मैंने अचीव किए। लेकिन थोड़ा किस्मत है, प्लस क्या होता है कि देयर इज अ फोटो फिनिश, बिकॉज वैकेंसी बहुत कम है, पिरामिडल स्ट्रक्चर, वैकेंसी बहुत कम है। और मेरे कोर्स में अगर 150 में से सिर्फ 5 लोग 2 स्टार बने हैं, और उसमें से सिर्फ दो दो लोग 3 स्टार बने हैं। So you can imagine the level of competition, and only about 32 odd people became 1 star. So it's quite a tough thing, and though it's a fair system, I would say system is fair. Though people who don't make it may sometimes say कि यार it is unfair, but वो तो human beings का nature है कि जब
हाँ.
कोई खुद को अचीव नहीं होता तो वो कहते हैं कि system खराब है। See, any system which is made by human beings will have its own follies and faults. But so long as more than 80% or 90% people who are following the system are satisfied with it, then you consider the system to as a satisfactory system. So I will take it that way. The system is perfectly fine, and इससे बेहतर तो only एक artificial intelligence वाला based system कर सकता है. But otherwise, everything is fine. And taking that into consideration, I feel that whatever I was to achieve in the Navy, I may not have achieved everything, but wherever I had a full stop, and that point in time, when I look back, I felt कि my time in the service was very well spent. और अपने जो your subordinate officers who are working under you, उनको motivate करके, उनको monitor करके, sometimes supervise करके, मार्गदर्शन करके, and ये सब करना, because to get a procurement case through in the Ministry of Defense is not easy. There is a lot of bureaucracy, and there are a lot of ifs and buts, and there are a lot of procedures to be followed. Plus there are vendors who will keep on cribbing, keep on complaining. Sometimes the vendors don't respond in time, sometimes the files get stuck in some office in the Ministry of Defense or in the naval headquarters. तो क्या होता है कि इसमें आपको सस्टेनेंस की बहुत आवश्यकता है. You can't lose your cool. You have to have emotional stability, and perseverance is very important, because क्या होता है कि अमूमन तौर पे वी फील दैट अगर हमने कुछ काम करना है तो जल्दी उसको निपटा दिया, लेकिन प्रोक्योरमेंट केस 3, 3.5, 4, 5 साल तक चलता है. तब तक क्या होता है कि आदमी का स्टेमिना भी कम हो जाता है, एंड देन यू लूज दैट इंटेंसिटी ऑफ परस्यूइंग ए केस. तो वो शायद हमने इंश्योर किया कि ऐसा कुछ ना हो, एंड एज अ रिजल्ट टुडे वी आर इन अ वेरी गुड स्टेट, एंड आई कैन टेल यू, and I can tell all the adversaries who may be listening to this podcast as in when it is published, that don't dare to do anything with us, because we are highly prepared.
Wow. This answer was now I can go in like 10 tangents, but I want to go in a tangent कि जैसे आपने बोला कि sometimes you don't have to lose your cool and you have to deal with a lot of people there. So आपकी वहाँ पे leadership skills वहाँ पे बाहर आती है, and how you manage with people. जैसे human resource development में भी leadership is one of the skills. कैसा आप lead करते हो. So what are some of the sir, tactics or frameworks you deployed during that particular kind of period जो आपको काम आए and that get the job done which was required?
See, number one is you should be able to know how to steer something. You should be able to know how to lead a team. And ये थोड़ा subjective हो जाता है because leadership के काफी models हैं.
हाँ.
I believed in very participative kind of leadership where I was open to ideas and views of everybody, even if the view is not up to the mark or not professionally very sound. But सबका सुनना बहुत जरूरी है because क्या है कि relationship management is the most important thing. And emotional intelligence stems from the fact that what is emotional intelligence? It's, how you are able to see your emotions, how you are able to read other person's emotions, how you're able to handle your emotions and their emotion in a very intelligent manner. That becomes emotional intelligence. So it's very important to have emotional intelligence. Then I said ki, physical courage, because as a leader, as a military leader, your subordinate should know that you have always proved yourself. But ये सब तो ठीक है, लेकिन मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग इज प्रोफेशनल कॉम्पिटेंस. जो आपका जो खास कोर सब्जेक्ट है उसमें आपको मान्यता हासिल करनी बहुत जरूरी है. अगर आपका प्रोफेशनल कॉम्पिटेंस ठीक नहीं है तो आप लॉर्ड नेल्सन भी बन जाएं, आपको कोई ज्यादा लाइक नहीं करने वाला. तो प्रोफेशनल कॉम्पिटेंस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. एंड ऑफ कोर्स जो बेसिक ट्रेड्स हैं जैसे कि योर कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स, हाउ यू आर एबल टू रीड पीपल एंड हाउ यू आर एबल टू कम्युनिकेट विद देम. Because क्या होता है, as a leader, you don't do things differently. You are actually trying to gather people's thought process, and you're able to harness their skill sets and what they can into a collective, whole, so that you can achieve the mission or objective in quick time. So that is the primary work of a leader. And agar wo, they say that the weakest link decide the chain, the strength of the chain. So as a leader, you have to identify which are the weak links and how you can motivate them to come up to a certain level so that they don't trouble the other people don't get troubled by them, and they're able to be in the same platform and deliver without ऊंच नीच का कोई किसी के में कोई भेदभाव ना हो. And we are able to work as an orchestra plays, all the instruments in orchestra plays. So you primarily become the conductor of the orchestra. So in simple terms, this is what I would say.
Right, sir. So from this answer only, I want to ask this. There is a very famous quote of Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett बोलता है कि praise specifically and criticize generally. Like आपका feedback देने का तरीका क्या था? And in your way, what is like a constructive feedback? Like let me tell you where I'm coming from, sir. कि जितने भी अभी लोग ये young लोग देख रहे हैं, like our primary audience watching this show is from 24 to 28, 29. कि जहाँ पे उनका प्रोफेशनल लाइफ में एक फीडबैक लूप शुरू होता है, जहाँ पे उनका बॉस या तो फिर उनको ऑडियंस के जो स्टार्टअप ओनर्स है तो उनको अपने ऑडियंस से एक फीडबैक मिलता है. सो दे स्टार्ट गेटिंग दोस कंस्ट्रक्टिव फीडबैक. सो इन योर ओपिनियन एंड फ्रॉम योर एक्सपीरियंस, हाउ डू यू क्राफ्ट कंस्ट्रक्टिव फीडबैक, और आपको फीडबैक किस तरीके से लेना चाहिए भी?
See, it's like this. आपने जो बोला, you criticize generally and praise specifically. उसको फौज में थोड़ा सा अलग ह्यू दिया गया है. And they say that whenever you want to praise somebody, you should praise somebody in the open, in front of everyone, so he feels good about it. And whenever you have to admonish somebody, यानी किसी को आपको डांटना है, गुस्सा करना है, तो उसको अलग से अपने कमरे में बुला के डांट, तो उससे उसकी बेइज्जती नहीं होती है और अपने कलीग के सामने उसकी बेइज्जती नहीं होती. You don't belittle him in front of the. So this is very important. ये तो मैंने सेंटेंस बोल दिया, लेकिन मैंने प्रैक्टिकली ये अपनाया है, प्रैक्टिस किया है. मेरे कुछ सीनियर्स ने भी ऐसा प्रैक्टिस किया है, and I have noticed them and I feel that the overall result is much better. Now, how do you believe in to motivate the people, and if somebody has to be given a constructive or a not so constructive feedback, तो पहली बात तो ये है कि if you are the team leader or if you are the manager, then what is your locus standi in front of your team is very important. आपकी अहमियत आपकी टीम के सामने क्या है, आपकी पर्सनालिटी किस तरह से आपकी टीम के सामने रिफ्लेक्ट होती है, दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. बिकॉज व्हाट हैपेंस, अगर आप एक खुश मिजाज टाइप के इंसान हो, जैसे कि मैं अपने आप को समझता हूँ, आई एम ऑलवेज लाइक दिस ओनली स्माइलिंग, एंड इवन इन वेरी वेरी डिफिकल्ट सिचुएशंस आई नॉर्मली टेंड टू फाइंड ह्यूमर एंड आई ऑलवेज हैव अ स्माइल. चाहे अंदर से बहुत ही
घबराहट हो
परेशानी
रही
हो, लेकिन आउटसाइड क्या होता है कि देन यू हैव टू शो टू पीपल कि लुक एवरीथिंग इज ऑल राइट. तो अगर ऐसा टाइप का इंसान हो, तो अगले को भी जो जिसको कुछ प्रॉब्लम है, ही कैन ऑलवेज कम एंड अप्रोच यू, सो यू बिकम इजीली अप्रोचेबल. दूसरी बात कि अगर आपने किसी को डांट भी दिया, तो वो बोलेगा यार ये वन ऑफ थिंग था, मे बी यू नो रियली ही इज फीलिंग सैड अबाउट इट और ही डजंट एक्चुअली मीन इट. सो सारी प्रॉब्लम तो सॉल्व हो जाती है इसमें आपकी पर्सनैलिटी के. If you feel that your personality is a happy-go-lucky person who is very easily accessible, then I must say that you can criticize a person continuously, thoroughly. He will not mind it. He will take each and every word very seriously. But if you're a serious type of person and you start criticizing, then a guy will say, "कि मैं तो गया यार, because I'm really so bad." And let me also tell you that when you criticize somebody, firstly, I don't use the word criticize. I will start telling somebody about appraisal. I will just take out this appraisal. Ki, look, this was the tasking which you were supposed to be doing, and you're supposed to have finished this tasking in a certain finite amount of time, and you've not been able to do it. I will try to find out the reason as to why you're not been able to. Give him full opportunity to explain himself, so that he should be satisfied कि भाई ये वाकई उन्होंने गलती की है, वाकई उनमें कुछ कमी है, और वाकई. And while when we establish the fact कि he understands कि yes, there is a lack of either understanding of my orders, or there is a lack of understanding the objective of the organization, or there is a serious lack in the professional knowledge and skill set which that person has. So once you're able to make the person understand these 3-4 aspects, then he becomes open to ideas. So your monologue with him or a dialogue with him is not construed as criticism. It is just as a senior colleague advising a junior colleague कि भाई ये आपकी लाइफ में प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, and maybe you should try to improve on these areas. और मैं अक्सर बहुत टाइम लेता हूँ किसी से, मैं अगर ऐसा बात करता हूँ, तो आई टेक अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम टू द एक्सटेंट कि वो बंदा बोर हो जाएगा मुझसे. बिकॉज देन आई स्टार्ट लुकिंग एट द ओवरऑल व्यू ऑफ द एंटायर थिंग, बिकॉज आई फील कि घोड़े और खच्चर में काफी अंतर है, पर घोड़ा
तो
अपनी जगह है और खच्चर अपनी जगह है. एंड लेट मी टेल यू, बोथ आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. इन माउंटेन्स, if you don't have खच्चर्स, लॉट ऑफ टॉप पोस्ट ऑफ द आर्मी, अभी तो खैर ड्रोन्स आ गए, लेकिन उस आर्मी विल बी विदाउट सप्लाई चेन मैनेजमेंट. घोड़े जो होते हैं वो किसी और काम के लिए होते हैं, but they are also important. So you will have a mix of such kind of people in any organization. So as a leader or as a manager, as a team leader at any level, you should be able to spot out what is the capability and skill sets of each and every individual. And you should spend, a manager should spend a lot of time devoting the time, actually not spend, but devote a lot of time in bringing up the overall efficiency and capability skill set development of his subordinates. ये तो सबसे प्राइमरी काम है. अगर ये काम आपने अचीव कर लिया, तो बाकी सब becomes like a work in motion.
करेक्ट सर, आपने एक चीज बोली कि यू हैव टू स्पॉट आउट द strengths and kind of weaknesses kind of thing in your subordinates. So मुझे आपसे ये सवाल है कि when you spot some of your subordinates, in your experience, आपका जो करियर का एक्सपीरियंस रहा है, आपके हिसाब से what are some of the signs of a good talent and a person with a very high capabilities, and what are some of the signs of a bad talent? I just want to, I don't want to use good and bad, but just for the framework for the layman's, I'm using those words. But in your opinion, what are some of the signs of a good talent and what are some of the signs of a bad talent?
See, actually, there is no good, there is no bad. तो आपने खुद ही बोल दिया है, कोई good नहीं है, कोई bad नहीं है. It depends on the performance of people. You know, when you start comparing, because eventually comparison is something which one cannot avoid
हाँ.
in any organization. But मेरे हिसाब से, I would rather have a average person who is very enthusiastic and who has extreme loyalty for the organization and who is punctual in his job and who is very interactive and who wants to learn more from you, despite the fact he is actually an above average chap, not a brilliant guy. Rather than having a brilliant guy who becomes like an individualistic person. I don't like people who are individualists. I like people who, it's like, one Tendulkar cannot win you a match in cricket. One Messi cannot meet you, win you a Olympic gold, or for that matter, World Cup. Ronaldo has been playing for so many clubs as one of the best players in the world, but what is the performance of Portugal? You see, it's a teamwork. So I feel that personally for me, although I may have been looked upon as a high achiever in my younger days, but let me also tell you that my own colleagues, if I compare, there are some guys who are much, much more brilliant than me, and they've done well, and they continue to do well in the Navy, or for that matter, in the Army and Air Force. So despite that, I would say that I do not consider an extremely brilliant guy to be very, very good always, because they would always have their own ifs and buts. But an above average guy who's willing to learn from you, who's very, very loyal to the organization, who feels for the mission statement of the organization. I think he's the kind of guy whom I would like to have in my team, because you can mold them, you can cultivate them, you can give them the right direction.
क्योंकि वो ज्यादा कोचेबल है एंड वो कल्चर के हिसाब से आपके बहुत अच्छी तरीके से फिट भी हो जाएगा. करेक्ट
Absolutely correct.
राइट यही चीज.
Although people who are brilliant, people who are genius, they're a class apart. So उनकी बात ही अलग है. So उनका फिर then you have to look at them and then see what is the job fit they can have in your organization.
Correct.
So such kind of people normally would like to be working alone or working very, very small specific teams in specialist jobs. They may not be very good in other things, and they may be good in so many things, but you as a leader or as a manager will not be able to spot those things. So then there'll be issues. Then there'll be issues. Like, when you have a relay race of 4, you cannot have somebody in between the third runner running very slow. Or at the same time, you can't have only one runner running very fast. You have to have people of the same speed. थोड़ा बहुत 19-20 का अंतर. तो ये सब होता है. But everybody's got a place in any organization.
करेक्ट. यही आपके एग्जांपल से, अगर शायद से आपने ओपनहाइमर मूवी अगर आपने देखी होगी, तो उसमें एक डायलॉग है कि जीनियस डज नॉट मीन विजडम. So I think this is also true. Yeah. So सर उसी के ऊपर मुझे अभी जैसे आपका मरीन कमांडो का जब टाइम था, सो आई I read the book called Can't Hurt Me. डेविड गॉगिन्स की बुक है.
I also read last week.
Yeah. So उसमें वो कहीं ना कहीं पे आपने बोला था कि मरीन कमांडोज इज इंडियाज नेवी सील. इज दैट करेक्ट?
It's absolutely correct.
यस. सो उसमें उन लोगों का उसने पूरा चैप्टर 1-2 चैप्टर लिए टू जस्ट एलैबोरेट द हेल वीक, किस तरीके से मेंटल टफनेस यू नीड एंड हाउ यू गो थ्रू इट एंड व्हाट काइंड ऑफ, and then you realize the power of human body there. So I just want to tell you that कि आप मुझे समझाओ कि हेल वीक में होता क्या है. आपने वहाँ में पार्ट लिया, you have went through that. So what kind of mental toughness you guys go through during that period of time? आप audience को बताओ.
We have a few Marine Commando officers who have also undergone the US Navy SEALs course, and they have performed very well.
Wow.
They were on Hell Week and everything. So they say that it is pretty tough, but they also say that our Marine Commando course is quite comparable. Because see, Hell Week mein the most difficult thing is, which I could sense from the other people, because we have done, as Marine Commando, we have done a lot of cross-training and joint exercises with the US SEALs. They used to come to India, we used to go to their country, Guam and all this thing, and do exercise with them. So man to man, they've undergone the same kind of physical and mental strain like we have undergone. Weather plays a lot of role, and those guys, when they come to India, and they all will be, while standing there, carrying all 6 to 8 bottles of Bisleri. They cannot sustain without drinking every half an hour. अगर उनको हेल वीक इंडिया में करा दिया गया तो उनकी तो बड़ी बत्ती बंद हो जाएगी. So similarly, people from Asia, when they go to America and other to do Hell Week, and it is cold season, so temperature of the water, sea water, is very, very cold. So we are not used to that cold temperature. So then it becomes a problem for us. Barring that, I think the entire methodology of Hell Week, what is followed in the US BUDS course, SEALs course is called. BUDS is basically basic underwater demolition and SEAL course,
हाँ
which is the basic course for them. It's the same like Marine Commando course. In fact, the same course, our entire pattern of our training and selection is based on what they've been following it. Not only they, most of the maritime special forces in the world, they follow the same thing. And all the good practices, when you do this cross-training exercise, all the good practices from each other force, we take on and then we try to implement that.
हाँ
Our Hell Week, like their Hell Week, is now become 106 hours of no sleep routine. पहले 96 hours था तो उसको हमने 106 घंटे कर दिया. So it starts off in the morning and then you can't sleep for 106 hours. Only thing is that they give you a 1 hour break where you can go back to your dormitories and then you do a morning routines and all, come back and again back to. So it's a continuous physical activity for 106 hours, which includes push-ups, sit-ups, carrying your on a buddy in your back and running, hitting the sand, coming out, rolling in the sand, some kind of punishment. Excuse me. Then hitting the sea and then doing inflatable board surf passage. Surf is the surf zone where the waves sea के waves होते हैं उसको surf zone बोलते हैं. उसको
हाँ
negotiate करना without engine in a inflatable craft. 6 बंदे होते हैं, सबके पास चप्पू होता है, and they will cross the things and then they do point-to-point navigation only using the chappu like a fisherman. And उसके बाद then you have underwater swimming and you have surface swimming with fins, without fins. And then you have obstacle course, which are a set of 10-15 difficult obstacles which are placed where you have to crisscross them and do that. Then you do log. There is a 100 kg long log. उसमें 4-5 बंदे log उठाते हैं. And every team is divided into boats. One boat will have 6 people, so 6 Marine Commando trainees will be with one boat. जहाँ भी हो जाएंगे वो boat उठा के जाएंगे. So all these things are, there is a hell of a lot of exercise which happens. And what happens? The Hell Week normally happens in the 2nd or 3rd month when you are starting a Marine Commando course.
हाँ
Majority of the Marine Commando people who come for this for the Marine Commando course have already undergone some part of the diving course, so they are physically very robust and mentally fit.
हाँ
And so when they come, so हमारा जो attrition rate in Hell Week is very less, whereas the maximum attrition in US में maximum attrition rate is in the Hell Week.
हाँ
And although I don't have any empirical formula to as to say as to why to derive as to or come to conclusion as to why this is happening, but I feel that an average Indian is physically much hardy, because हिंदुस्तान में लोगों की समस्याएं बहुत हैं. Our diet is different, our climatic conditions are different. हमें बहुत मशक्कत करनी पड़ती है जिंदा रहने की.
हाँ
अमेरिका जैसे कंट्री में ऐसा कुछ खास है नहीं. They are a rich country, more lavish way of living life, and also कष्ट उनके लिए थोड़ा सा, जो उनका कष्ट है वो हमारे लिए ज्यादा कष्ट नहीं होगा, लेकिन जो हमारा कष्ट उनके लिए बहुत, उनकी तबीयत खराब हो जाएगी. So like that, but it is very tough there. It is equally tough here, and so this is how it is. And लेकिन एक चीज हमने ये देखी कि उसमें हेल्थ वीक का मेरा मुद्दा ये होता है कि वो आपको मेंटली एंड फिजिकली दे वांट टू एग्जॉस्ट यू. वो आपको तोड़ना चाहते हैं, आपको प्राइमल कंडीशन लेके आना चाहते हैं. और उस समय क्या होता है कि अगर आपकी साइकोलॉजिकल प्रॉब्लम्स हैं आपकी लाइफ, वो सामने मैनिफेस्ट हो जाते हैं. आर यू केपेबल ऑफ वर्किंग इन ए टीम? कि अगर कहीं आप ऐसे बंदे तो नहीं कि भाई हम तो डूबेंगे सनम, आपको भी लेके डूबेंगे, ऐसा वाला बंदा नहीं चाहिए भाई. हमें ऐसा बंदा चाहिए जो कि हर वक्त, लाइक दिल्ली पुलिस का स्लोगन है ना कि हर वक्त आपके साथ. तो दैट इज द काइंड ऑफ मेंटालिटी टाइप वी वांट. एंड हेल वीक में इट इज नॉट ए कॉम्पिटिशन that you are swimming faster than him or you are running faster. No, hell week is sustenance. How much you can sustain, how much you are able to have your mental equilibrium maintained, mental balance maintained. Emotional stability is very very important, because क्या है कि छोटी मोटी बातों में लोग लड़ाई करने को तैयार हो जाते हैं. लेकिन हेल वीक में ऐसी जो ट्रेड्स हैं, because the instructors are there 24/7 watching you at every step, because ये हाई रिस्क कोर्स है, इसमें लोग कैजुअलिटी भी हो सकती है, इसलिए डॉक्टर्स भी रहते हैं, एम्बुलेंस भी होता है, एंड एवरीथिंग इज वेरी वेल अरेंज्ड. एंड इंस्ट्रक्टर्स का ये होता है कि दे हैव टू कीप ऑन सीइंग व्हाट इज द लेवल ऑफ ए पर्सन, इज ही एबल टू सस्टेन फर्दर और शुड ही स्टॉप, शुड ही रिक्वायर मेडिकल असिस्टेंस, और इज ही फिट फॉर ज्वाइनिंग अ हाईली स्पेशलाइज्ड force like the Marine Commandos, everything they check on a regular basis. And if they have any doubt, then they don't want to risk it further. और अगर किसी बंदे को वैसी प्रॉब्लम होती है तो वो खुद ही हाथ खड़ा करके निकल जाएगा कोर्स से, तो ऐसा होता है. बट आई थिंक इट इज अ वेरी वेरी गुड वे ऑफ classifying people, whether they are fit for the Marine Commandos or they are unfit for them.
So sir, जब आप 96 hours तक, let's say अभी तो 106 hours अभी हो गए, when you are awake you can't sleep, तो किस तरीके से body and mind reacts to that thing, because you are habituated to sleep for let's say कितने भी घंटे आप ले लो, but you are habituated to that thing from a very childhood thing, right? And it is very essential for a human body as well. So जब वो आपको नहीं मिलता उस दौरान, तो तब क्या होता है, like how you navigate that thing? जैसा आपने बोला कि साइकोलॉजिकली आपके डीमन साइड्स जो डेविड गॉगिन्स ने भी लिखा था कि वो कहीं ना कहीं पे आदमी के बाहर आ जाता है, बट उसके अलावा भी और क्या क्या चीजें होती है?
देखो ऐसा है कि spending sleepless nights is something which was very common in the National Defense Academy also. There also sometimes the whole night we never used to sleep. So ये तो आदत लगी हुई है. Plus diving course में भी हमने, as I told you, see in my Marine Commando course, it was in 91, 92. So it was just formulating in Bombay. So we didn't have a classic Hell Week as what I'm talking. This is the Hell Week which has started later, because we keep on getting buying good practices. But in diving course, we had something very simple in Lakshadweep Island, where we had sort of a Hell Week. And human body is very adaptable, and mental strength is more important than physical strength. Physical strength is important to the extent that you have a benchmark. ये benchmark से आपको better होना है, इतनी physical आपकी fitness level हो गई है, तो then you can do it. उसके बाद what pulls you, what is the engine which drives you, is your mental strength, mental toughness. So the entire idea of Hell Week is to see how much mental toughness you have. And believe in you, लोग रोते हैं, चिल्लाते हैं, उसमें काफी कुछ करते हैं, लेकिन 95 से ज्यादा लोग उसमें क्लियर करें. क्योंकि क्या होता है ना कि more than anything else, when one person is doing something alone, he finds it difficult. But when he sees other people also in the same boat, in the same situation, so अपना जो दुख है ना, वो थोड़ा सा कम लगता है. Your tension which you got, you feel it is much lesser than the tension of the other person. So I think it is, when you combine a set of body of people together, so self-confidence is such a, like it spreads, it spreads like a disease. I would say the positive way of spreading, and each other's self-confidence bolsters each other's stamina and mental toughness, and then you are able to work together. So that's how it is. Difficult to है, लेकिन after Hell Week they give you 2-3 days rest and you have to recuperate and all. अगर आप वो डेविड गॉगिन्स की किताब पढ़ोगे तो उसने भाई साहब ने तीन बार Hell Week किया हुआ है.
हाँ.
And see, twice, first 2 Hell Weeks he was able to complete it, but then he had some problem in his leg. So वो सब चीजें होती है वहाँ पे. हमारे यहाँ पे भी हैं लोग जो Hell Week में बाहर निकलते हैं, लेकिन बहुत कम निकलते हैं. And I don't know, I gave you my reasoning. It may not be totally correct, but I think I can, हमारे जो जवान हैं, चाहे वो आर्मी में हो, चाहे वो नेवी में हो, they are very very physically robust and mentally very fit.
Yes, they are. और आपने जो रीजनिंग उसके लिए जो बोला था कि like in India people go through a very rough and tough, kind of bringing up, तो वहाँ पे वो आदमी कहीं ना कहीं पे वो घड़ता है ना, क्या बोलते हैं उसको, like हिंदी वर्ड क्या होता है, तो वो कहीं ना कहीं पे शार्पन हो जाते हैं वो लोग एक early age से ही. What was your deadliest experience while you were deployed as Marine Commando?
Actually, deadly experience, so I really can't narrate, but difficult experience I can tell you, which is other than the Marine Commando experience. It would have been very embarrassing for the Indian Navy, because I was to do a tasking to my ship was extensively deployed in post-tsunami relief operations. So we are going to harbors which are totally decimated. The water level have risen or somewhere it is reduced. So the underwater topography has changed. So from the point of view of navigation, शिप के नेविगेशन के लिए बहुत खतरा था. ऐसे बंदरगाह जो बिल्कुल टूट चुके थे, जेटियां टूट चुकी थी, क्रेन गिर चुके थे, और कोई मैन पावर नहीं वहां पे जाके आपको अपना have to come alongside and then discharge your items and all. That is a very challenging job, and which I did uh, because the support I got from my ship's company. Ship's company means the officers and the sailors who man a ship is called ship company. So
Okay.
that is one plus. इसी ऑपरेशन के दौरान एक सुनामी मेमोरियल बन रहा था, जो Karnik was an Air Force base which was totally decimated. More than 200 people, Air Force people died during tsunami in that. So वहाँ पे it's a big Air Force base. So वहाँ पे the president was supposed to come, and president is the commander in chief of the armed forces. So he was to come, and as part of his visit, there are certain important ceremonies to be done, like 150 man guard. 150 आदमी खड़े होते हैं guard के सलामी देने के लिए, and there are many more such ceremonies which have to be done. तो वो 150 गार्ड जो थे वो मेरे शिप में थे, और मुझे पोर्ट ब्लेयर से बोला गया था उनको वहां ले जाने। And I landed up in a problem because my rudder got stuck because I didn't have the kind of spindle oil which was required for steering the ship, and ship में भी था नहीं. It was night time, and that was one occasion where I felt कि I should have been a bit more prudent in my decision, because I had some stock of this spindle oil which I gave to other commanding officers of the ship, because I thought they should also be, they should not be tied alongside, they should also be sailing.
हाँ.
At that point in time, when pitch dark and the ship is not able to move ahead, it's moving in circles because the rudder is the stern में जो rudder होता है,
हाँ.
which guides the ship for change of course, that got stuck in one direction, 35 degrees end. So now what do we do? The ship is moving in circles, and I had about 80 nautical miles, यानी कि about 150 kilometers to cover in a period of a couple of hours at night. And I was wondering that if I'm not able to sort out this situation at sea at night, then I'll have to cut a very sorry figure. The 150 man guard will not land in that place, and then it'll be such a big embarrassment. The president would have already come there, and it's a big embarrassment. So that was the situation, and to handle a situation at that night was something which I will never forget in my life. Because all the tenets of leadership which I've imbibed and learned, it's difficult for me to describe what all I did, but the long and short is, I was able to come out of the situation. And in such situations when obviously it's a teamwork, and it is because of my team that they were able to come up with some ideas, and we implemented the ideas. But the primary mover is the person who is in charge of that situation. And if he starts losing his cool, and if he starts taking irrational decisions, then his subordinates who actually want to help out in a situation would only behave like subordinates, and they will wait for orders. So now, how do you get it? Now, this is the situation which I'm giving you, what you told me about that captain.
Huh.
This is the situation which was outside the tools which I've learned. Some of this. Giving leeway to your subordinates to take decisions or generate ideas, and those ideas which are totally out of the box, never been attempted any time in the history of the Navy. Come up with those kind of ideas, and then agree with the idea, take a quick check and realize that idea may work, and take a chance for the idea to work and implement the ideas. Ensure that your subordinates are not acting as subordinates, but they are acting as people who are in the same boat, having the same grief factor. They are the people who are now become totally aligned with you. You are feeling that it's like your extended arms.
Correct.
You are in threat. Your subordinates have become part of your body. So it's called one unison. They all became united in such a manner that what is in my mind, it is in their mind. Normally, I don't know, I've not seen other situation where this can develop, but in that situation, definitely it developed.
True.
But behaving as a senior colleague.
True,
That-
true, sir. Sir, I just want to take now a right turn in our conversation, और मुझे बात करनी है कि when army officers experience something like a death of a fellow officer, या तो फिर वो एक कोई ऑपरेशन पे जाते हैं where they lost someone. So how like people like you deal with grief and regret? आर्मी के अंदर लोग किस तरीके से ग्रीफ और एक रिग्रेट के साथ डील करते हैं?
See, I think this again is a moral and ethical question.
हाँ.
Everybody will have a different way of expressing his grief. In the armed forces, death during part of your service mission is quite normal. There are more deaths which occur when you are actually doing training. And because conflict and लड़ाई का situation तो कई कई सालों में एक बार आता है, लेकिन रूटीन ट्रेनिंग तो होती रहती है. एंड ट्रेनिंग में दे सिमुलेट वॉर लाइक सिचुएशंस एंड यू हैव टू एक्ट लाइक दैट. तो उसमें कई बार कैजुअलिटी हो जाती हैं. फ्लाइंग में हेलीकॉप्टर्स में एयरक्राफ्ट क्रैश हो जाते हैं, फाइटर पायलट्स. सो दोस थिंग्स कीप ऑन हैपनिंग. शिप में भी समटाइम पीपल फॉल ओवरबोर्ड एंड एक दो ऐसे इंसिडेंट्स हुए व्हेन पीपल आर लॉस्ट एट सी. These things do happen and they are part of the package which you get in the armed forces when you join it as a voluntary force. It's a big ceremony in the armed forces because a lot of respect is given to the departed soul, and then thereafter the family are looked after. So there is a grief if you lose your own men in an operation in which you are planning and leading the operation, and if you tend to lose. मेरे पास ऐसी situation आई नहीं है, but I know my friends who lost people like this. They do feel very sad about it. They always feel that maybe I could have done something and maybe this would not have happened. So थोड़ा सा self talks, negative self talk भी होते हैं, आत्मग्लानि होती है. But उसके बाद you come out of the situation, you know, yeah, this is part of life, and then you have to see now what next, and in what next you see how much the service can help the family of the deceased, or the family of the person who was departed, who was killed in action, or killed in during the service, course of service. And then what happens after some time, people do tend to forget this because the other larger aspects take over the occasion. So I guess that is the only way. I mean, the same thing happened when my parents also passed away and they were staying with me, and I think the reaction was थोड़ा सा क्या होता है कि in your own house there is more of emotional attachments, पुरानी यादें होती हैं. And I guess a very similar thing happens if you're staying together in a community called the armed forces, and you're training the same event and all. So same bhaichara, same kind of emotional bonding develops. So इसलिए मैंने जो start किया था कि same thing which happens to you when somebody loses a member of the family, same procedure happens in people's.
So फिर आप वो स्किल ऑफ डिटैचमेंट किस तरीके से अपने आप को सिखाते हो कि थोड़ा मुझे डिटैच भी होना पड़ेगा बिकॉज इट इज रिक्वायर्ड इन माय जॉब?
Yeah, because the show must go on. That's it. The show must go on. It's not, I would not say the word show. I use the word show must go on because it's a hackneyed term which is used by the film artists and all, or writers and all. But I mean, you have to continue your work. You have to continue your work. Because the main objective is more important than losing life of one people. Though you feel sad, bad, occasion becomes very somber. Lekin the ultimate objective is different. Defending the motherland is the ultimate objective. So you have to then let go your cobwebs, and let go your grief and everything, and then go ahead and see a other bright day. And because you're still leading men, you still have to do operations. That way.
True. अभी मुझे थोड़ा हटके लाइक आर्मी के ऊपर ही सवाल है, बट इन अ वेरी डिफरेंट वे. सो यूएसए ना बहुत अच्छी तरीके से इन्फ्यूज करता है सॉफ्ट पावर बाय मेकिंग आर्मी मूवीज. आपने वो लोग बहुत सारी मूवीज बनाते हैं. ओपनहाइमर इज सो देयर विल बी नो लाइक हार्डकोर पैट्रियोटिज्म वो लोग नहीं बताएंगे, बट दे विल इन्फ्यूज दैट सॉफ्ट पावर कि ओ हाउ दिस इज हाउ नेवी सील्स रिएक्ट, सील टीम 6 रिएक्ट्स, और इस तरीके से काम करता है. कहीं ना कहीं पे ओपनहाइमर इफ यू आल्सो सी दे विल लाइक आपको पता चलता है कि अच्छा इन लोगों के पास इतने ज़्यादा बहुत ही बेहतरीन साइंटिस्ट है जो एक्चुअली में थे, बट देयर वर मच मोर देन दैट. सो आई जस्ट वांट टू आस्क यू सर कि बाय आई थिंक कि people like you coming on this kind of podcast and sharing your knowledge is a kind of extremely important, because मैंने ना एक चीज़ सुनी थी from फरहान अख्तर. he was telling a story to only रणवीर only on his podcast कि लक्ष्य मूवी मैंने की थी बिकॉज जावेद अख्तर मेट वन ऑफ द मेजर एंड ही टोल्ड कि जावेद साहब आर्मी में ना बहुत सारे हमारे जो एडमिशन्स आ रहे हैं वो बहुत कम आ रहे हैं, एंड लाइक वी हैव टू डू समथिंग फॉर इट. एंड जावेद अख्तर को कुछ हुआ एंड ही रोट लक्ष्य इन दैट. and Farhan Akhtar made it. And after so many years, when Farhan Akhtar went to अमृतसर में जो आर्मी अकेडमी है वहाँ पर है नहीं लाइक तो वहाँ पे गैदरिंग हुई वहाँ पे एंड ही आस्क कि इसमें से कितने लोगों का लक्ष्य है वो सो ऑलमोस्ट 70% ऑफ पीपल रेज देयर हैंड उन्होंने बोला कि वी जॉइंड आर्मी बिकॉज आफ्टर सीइंग लक्ष्य कि हमें वो एक इंस्पिरेशन जैसा मिल गया सो माय क्वेश्चन इज सर कि हाउ द मूवीज शुड बी मेड एंड डिपिक्ट इंडियन आर्मी कि जिससे लाइक वी कैन इन्फ्यूज दिस काइंड ऑफ सॉफ्ट पावर इन पीपल अबाउट आवर आर्मी
See, क्या होता है कि movie is primarily a commercial venture.
हाँ
So the commerce aspect is given a lot of importance. There are some producers who made very good movies, like Lakshay is one. Plus, now recently, that Uri was another good movie made. Of course, there's a lot of masala in that, but then the overall structuring of sub was such that people do tend to get charged up and all. Then there was a movie called Hindustan Ki Kasam in 1971. A movie called Hakikat. अब क्या होता है कि most of the movies I've seen earlier time movie war movies उसमें there was a reflection of a defeatist mentality. And this reflects to our history because our history was written by the Britishers was a history written for people who have been defeated by the Mughals, by the Britishers, and by everyone who got defeated. So that defeatist mentality was reflected. Now everybody becomes emotional definitely when you're losing a war, when you're losing manpower, and your fellows are dying. Everyone does tend to become emotional. You don't have to show that, you know. You don't have to show that to that extent. One part can be shown. पर हमारे कंट्री में एक चक्कर है. Excuse me. Whenever there's an accident or like Kargil happened, so the body bags were shown. You tell me in the war in Afghanistan and the other war, so many Americans died. एक का भी body bag देखा आपने? They don't show. They don't show all this thing. But we in India, unless आपने देखा नहीं कि भाई बच्चा रो रहा है, माँ रो रही है, अपने वो ना चूड़ियां तोड़ रही हैं, तो that इमोशन जागते नहीं है हिंदुस्तानियों में. और उसका फायदा उठाते हैं प्रोड्यूसर्स एंड डायरेक्टर्स जो ये पिक्चर बनाते हैं. Although their intention may be to show very clearly what actually our great armed forces did and the bravery and courage they've showed. But at the end of the day, somewhere there's a twist because commercial interests then overplay any other interest. So I would say that things are now improving. A lot of people have got generally aware of what is happening. Although there is shortage of officers in the armed forces, there's no doubt about it. But a lot of people are volunteering. The only problem is that our education system is not that geared up because we are having islands of institution of excellence, center of excellence. We do not have very good institutions if you take across the board, not even 1-2% in our country. बाकी जो education institutions हैं, they're not up to the mark. But the examinations are same. You cannot lower the standards. You cannot lower the service selection board. As a result, a lot of people come for the SSB. The whole batches get washed out. Nobody is able to clear. UPSC में तीन चार लोग एग्जाम लिखते होंगे उसमें से भी लोग पास नहीं होते हैं 15-20 हजार ही पास होते हैं. So it is not that there is no shortage of volunteers who want to join the armed forces, but it is the quality of people who are paying for the exam, which leaves much to be desired.
Do you read like from various range of book or there are particular kind of books that you like to read the most?
I like to read a lot of range of books. In fact, this reading habit I picked up in my school days because my father used to insist and my elder brother used to insist. He was a voracious reader. And so I used to read a lot of books. But in the school days, it was essentially two. One is the Commando books, that Frederick Fawcett and, then Alistair MacLean. I don't know whether you know these names. And Neville Shute. And then I was interested in medicine. I wanted once upon a time become a doctor. So Robin Cook की किताबें होती थी, medical investigation. So those I used to read. I've read almost all his 8-10 books. Then later on, I started reading books on philosophy and all. I was also, I used to read a lot of Osho. And that was when I was in my mid-20s, late 20s. And then, but after I hit 30s, I was more into historical books which can give you more of knowledge. I don't like to read novels. I don't like to read novels. I like to read books like Sapien. It's a very good book. Then there are other good books written by James Michener. He's a historian come author and he writes about evolution of mankind, evolution. So basically they write those thick books but it plays a funda right from the word go. So those kind of things.
Are you a kind of person who remembers images or remember words?
Both, but more of images. I forget names. But when if I interacted with this, like I now interact with you for more than an hour and a half, so I would be able to spot you in a crowd of 100 people easily. And if you ever happen to speak to me in a telephone, maybe 1 2 years down the line, I can spot out this guy I know. I may forget your name, but I'm sure by the time you'll become a big man, so everybody will know your name.
That's
So
so
that way.
generous of you. हाँ, मुझे ये सर लास्ट एक दो सवाल ही है मेरे छोटे वाले. ये है कि what are some of the non-military leaders you admire? People who are not from military background, but those leaders you admire the most.
There are many,
हाँ,
but I would say that I follow Sadhguru, Isha Foundation. I follow him. I follow his teachings and all. And I feel that he's a very admirable person. Then I don't want to say the name of political leaders, but if I have to classify a political leader, I feel the current Prime Minister is one hell of a leader, and he is doing an excellent job for the country. And then even the Chief Minister of UP, he is doing a fantastic job. Yeah, I feel these are all, they're setting up very good precedents for the future growth of the country as well as for the state of UP. They're doing a fantastic job.
And what is that one experience which you would like all the people to have at least once in their life? आपने जो भी experience अपने life में किया हो, तो आप लोगों को बोलना चाहोगे कि ये experience तो जरूर करना अपनी life में.
So the experience of failure is very, very important. I could not crack ND exam twice, and that time, my father was in the verge of retirement, and there was a lot of pressure on me. My elder brother was already an officer, and since I was a good student, I stood second in class 12th in my school, so there was a lot of pressure on that point also. A lot of my friends were surprised that I could not clear the exam. My parents were, my father was breathing down my neck. And then, and then I got a self beating because I got challenged myself as to how, being a good student, I used to always come first, second, third, right from the child class first to class 12. This is the merit I used to have. And I could not clear I thought it's simple exam like UPSC for ND. So that 1 year was extremely difficult, rather painful. And there was self-realization, self-learning, what has gone wrong, where have I faulted. And my father had made it very clear, if you don't pass the third chance, then perhaps you'll have to join the Navy as a sailor. And that was a shock which had come to me. So, of course, my father was trying to scare me. And middle class people, there's always, parents have to play all these tricks to psych a child. And when the parent know very well this child has got merit, he can do things. अगर बुद्धू वाला लड़का है तो पेरेंट्स क्या बोले वो तो बस
पहले से बोलेंगे कि रहने दे.
हाँ रहने दे यार नो नहीं middle class people Indian never say रहने दे. सबके hope is the only constant, no?
Yeah.
Hope survives always. So that was so. What I'm trying to say that unless you have failed in your life, you cannot really understand what is success, and you cannot work towards success.
Yes.
So that is one experience I feel everybody should have at least once.
Right, correct. So I think that's it, sir. Thank you so much for doing this. मैंने ये एपिसोड में ट्राई किया था कि आप जितने भी एपिसोड करके आए हो पॉडकास्ट के ऊपर, सो मुझे उसके थोड़ा हटके करना था, एंड आई सॉ सम ऑफ द अनकवर्ड ग्राउंड कि जो अभी तक नहीं हुआ है. सो आई होप कि जितने भी लोगों ने एपिसोड देखा है या तो फिर सुना है, they got something new from Vijay Sir from this podcast episode. I really enjoyed it, and I feel कि आप लोगों के लिए भी ये जो learnings या तो फिर अपने सर ने उनके जो experiences share किए हैं कहीं ना कहीं आपके लिए भी valuable बने हैं. But thank you so much, sir, for giving your time. Like from on behalf of all the people like me and people who genuinely believe in Indian Army, I just want to salute you. Because you did a very you are doing a very good job for our country, and you are impacting a lot of people by doing this kind of stuff. And I genuinely feel ki people like you should come more on podcasts like this so people can get to know the real side of Indian Army. So, and I just want to say the last few words to all the people what people should expect from Indian Army in the coming years?
Thank you, Utsav. It was a very nicely conducted podcast, and I can make out that the question which you were asking me were slightly different, other than one or two which you can't avoid it, but it was quite different. And I really enjoyed answering those. Maybe if you had told me that this is the kind of question you're asking, that I could have prepared something and used some, officialese and linguistic delight, but then that's okay. On the
Huh.
spot where you were able to answer extempore,
Yeah.
that's the best way to answer. And I think the people who listen to this podcast would really understand things from my perspective.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
is one thing good which you have done, and I wish you all the very best in your venture. And do raise me whenever you need me for anything. And I can also give you some links for other people whom you can call in your podcast, so that their
Sure, sir.
expertise can also be shared with the general public in our country.
Sure, sure,
Thank you
sir.
very much.
Thank
Jai
you so
Hind and Shauna Varun.
Yes. Jai Hind, sir. So that's the end of this podcast episode. अगर आपको ये एपिसोड अच्छा लगा हो, आपको कुछ वैल्यू मिली हो, आपको कुछ नया जानने को मिला हो इस एपिसोड में से, देन मेक श्योर यू hit that like button and share this episode as much as you can, especially with your friends who has particular kind of interest in this kind of topics. And lastly, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much.